Motherhood is probably like the biggest mindfuck that I can genuinely think of. It is wonderful and mind-numbing and exciting and terrifying all at the same time. I had 100% thought that because of the way that my eating disorder had been and how bad I was, and that my periods had completely stopped, I wasn't even getting periods on the run up to falling pregnant. I'd 100% just kind of accepted the fact that I was never going to be a mum, so I was just going to have, adopt friends' children and have my niece, and that was going to be me, which was really upsetting because as the oldest of 4 kids, like, I think that allowed me to have that maternal instinct, and I loved sort of being part of watching my brothers and sisters grow. So it was upsetting, to believe that. So when we did find out we were pregnant, it wasn't just a shock because it happened very quickly. It was a shock because I never thought it was going to happen, and the fact that everything was so smooth.
I wouldn't describe myself as, some women, I suppose, have this kind of deep biological desire to have kids. I don't think I've ever really had that, even though I thought that probably kids would be somewhere on the trajectory. But I don't have this, I don't feel I need to have kids to fulfill me. I mean, I'm not tied to this idea of having my own biological children. Having your own children doesn't automatically mean you're going to bond and connect with those children. That's not a given. I see, when I see, parents pushing kids in prams, I don't know, I feel a little bit sorry for them. That feels a bit bleak for me. Not that they have kids, but it kind of feels, oh my gosh, that's a lot of pressure and sort of a very enclosed world. I just can't connect with that. If people are judgmental of me, of not fulfilling my societal role as a female, but actually I am fulfilling a societal role. I am teaching young people, not just a subject, but also, being a role model.
We'll start when I was 18 and I got married. And I was married for 1 year and 10 months, and then my husband was killed on a motorcycle. My husband wasn't the best of people. He used to kind of beat me up from time to time, so to me it was a relief when he died. Not that I hated him or anything like that, it was just, I could start maybe having my own life. Well, I fell pregnant and decided I wasn't going to have an abortion. So I went to stay in Aberdeen with my sister. So I was there till I had Matthew, which was in Aberdeen. And I had to have an emergency caesarean with him. So they kept me in hospital for a few days. And then I came home without him. And then decided maybe I should give it a try, and I took Matthew home and I tried for about a week or so, and it wasn't for me. So I got in touch with the adoption agency again, and they had him adopted out. So he actually went to a nurse that was in the hospital at the time. He was looking to adopt a child in the hospital that he was actually born. I wasn't ready to be a mum at 18, so I have absolutely no regrets at all about that. I don't feel bad about what I did. I felt it was definitely the right thing for me, and he got a mother and a father out of that.
I've probably found motherhood has had more of an impact on me because of my job, because my feelings as a mother, I feel like they impact on me personally and professionally. I've really struggled when Finlay was first born. He had reflux and allergies, and he was a really unsettled baby, and I didn't want to admit it, but I probably was suffering from post-natal depression, and I felt that I was feeling as a mum, but as a result of that I felt as if I was feeling professionally as well, because I had been going out talking to all these parents about how to keep their children safe and how to manage their children's emotional needs and well-being, and then here I was going somebody please take him, like I can't cope with this. So that had quite a big impact. I mean, it's still like every time, you know, he'll have a tantrum and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't do this. And then I think, God, if that's me with like a supportive family, a good relationship, you know, a stable financial income, how must, you know, mums suffering with addiction and mental health and domestic violence, you know, be managing when they've got nobody else to kind of turn to? So it raised all sorts of questions for me, and actually, you know, I kind of laugh about it now, but I remember being so sleep deprived. I was like, I'll just take him into work and they'll put him with a really nice foster carer because I'll pick one. And then thinking, what the hell? Like, I'd had like 40 minutes sleep in 48 hours or something.
I didn't start enjoying motherhood till Sarah maybe turned about 2 and she started talking more and like being able to like actually engage with me and stuff. Obviously she could do that as a baby, but it was just much different. I didn't have much help. Like when you look at people, let's say similar ages to me, do you know what I mean? Like they can still go out every weekend, or they at least still do. And it's like, who is watching your child right now? Like I do not have that option. My mum takes her once every fortnight or sometimes more than that, and that's when she's not working. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. That's all I get. And at the start, I think I found that really hard because it was just me in this house with a baby. I'd no one really to turn to. Does that make sense? Obviously, when I found out I was pregnant, I had a massive drug problem. I'd recently just stopped taking cocaine. I was addicted to that for ages, and I had a really big Valium habit. I'd lost loads and loads of weight, didn't eat, was just taking loads of pills, and I found out I was pregnant. And obviously it was like, right, okay, well, what do I do? Because at that time, I was working 40 hours a week, spending all my money on drugs, going out partying, but that's what I liked. But that was all my friends at the time, that was all I had in common with them. They didn't want to have children or settle down. So when I made the decision to, okay, I'm going to keep this baby, I had to kind of change my life. I genuinely had to stop talking to a lot of people.
We had no family in Australia, so there was nobody else that could look after Lila. So I took another year off work, and they were fine about it and said, sure, just come back in a year, just let us know. And very soon into that second year, I realised I still can't see a way to go back again. It's cerebral palsy, but her primary disability is it's a rare brain disorder called bilateral perisylvian polymicrogyria. And then she also has an undiagnosed movement disorder as well. But all of that shows itself as cerebral palsy. I don't remember how it felt so much as remembering how I think I thought that they would say it wasn't that. And actually for a long time I thought it was my fault because she had been so unhappy and the only way to get her to go to sleep was to rock her. And you had to rock her quite forcefully. And I thought, oh fuck, I must have shaken her too hard and I broke her brain. Oh my God, it was me. So then later on, whenever she had her MRI, a couple of months later, and the neurosurgeon came back or neurologist came back and said, you can see on her brain here these little markings and the texture just there. That's what this is called. And I just remember thinking, oh, thank God it wasn't me. Because I remember just like always in the back of my head just thinking, and then Chris is going to hate me and all my friends are going to know that I broke my baby. And do they take it away? Do we have to tell people? Would they take her away? And all this just quietly going on in the background of my brain. So I was actually I was really pleased when they came back with that diagnosis, which sounds awful. But because the alternative in my head was that it was my fault, that I'd done it, that I'd broken my baby. And it was like a quiet background panic all the time of thinking, how could we cover it up? How could we not tell anybody? Oh my God, what did I do? Oh my God, what did I do?
So my pregnancy was interesting. It was completely normal. We were in London and there was, I was well throughout my pregnancy, but unfortunately at the time of birth, as soon as Arish was born, I met with lots of kind of unforeseen complications. So I ended up actually experiencing a huge amount of blood loss, but in trying to resuscitate me, I had all sorts of kind of complications, reactions to blood products, but I ended up essentially unconscious, in intensive care, in a coma for 5 days, having had lung failure, liver failure, heart failure. And yeah, so I kind of woke up to a very different kind of reality than what I had perceived it was going to be. And the recovery was quite horrific. Here was a baby that I had wanted, was so fortunate to carry. And then I woke up 5 days later and I just wasn't connected at all. Like, I wanted to know where my baby was, but then I saw my baby and everybody else knew how to feed him and how to change him. But I just felt so helpless. And, you know, I was completely traumatized and I was trying to piece things together. But my GP was just like, oh, you're depressed. And I was like, well, I'm not depressed. I really don't think I'm depressed. Maybe in hindsight now I look back at it and think I probably was depressed, of course, because look at what happened. But you go into this fight or flight mode as a new mum, where your instincts are all about keeping your baby healthy and watching your baby thrive, and all your hopes are pinned on your baby's your growth and development. And you almost kind of go into this, like, I don't care about me, I care about my baby. So that didn't go. But emotionally, I just felt quite numb. I was sleep deprived, I was fatigued, I was in so much pain. And I just wanted somebody to help me piece it together. But my health visitor, the midwives, everyone was just really focused on the tick boxes and thinking that a drug was going to fix me. And it was definitely not any drug that could fix me, and actually the thing that healed me was my baby.
The shock of having a baby not the way I had kind of hoped it to happen was kind of hard. And looking back on it now, I kind of think, and I was talking to someone about it quite recently, I probably should have gone and looked into talking to someone a little bit about it after, because I was really quite traumatized. I don't think I suffered from like a birth trauma or post-traumatic stress or anything, but I do think that it would have been really useful for me to be able to maybe discuss with my midwife what had happened and how it had happened, and maybe even look at my hospital files. So that was really, really hard, and it made the start of motherhood, I think, kind of really difficult for me. Some things I found really easy, like the sleepless nights I was able to deal with really easily. This tiny baby that was like just suddenly part of our lives felt like she'd been there forever. Like, I never had any trouble with feeling all of those feelings that you're supposed to have. But then there was parts of everything at the beginning that I just found really, really hard, and no one talks about it. Getting out of the house for me was really, really, really important. Every day. But then thinking about it, I was getting out of the house to fill my days because I just didn't want to be on my own because it was so lonely at the beginning.
I was terrified to be open about my mental health at the beginning when I was really, really struggling. When she was really, really small, I didn't really want to open up to anybody because I was terrified that me saying that I was struggling meant someone would take my kid off me. Last year, when things were really, really hard, when my mental health took a really bad dive, I was in a horrible state. I was struggling to get out of bed. My eating disorder kicked back in, and life was just hard. Like, I woke up in the mornings and was like, I can't do this. Like, I just can't do this. And you're not a bad mum for having like an awful situation. Like, life throws really crap things at us, and your mental health is so important. So if I'm sad, she knows I'm sad. She's seen me cry, and I tell her, Mama's just sad. And for me, that's letting her know that all feelings are valid, and whatever she deals with in life, I'm going to be there for her, and she's allowed to talk about it. Because I think part of the issue with the stigma is we just don't talk about things, and we're not honest, and we do say we're fine when we're not. So I'm trying to create that dialogue with her and create that dialogue for other people to be like, it's okay to feel like crap. It's okay to not want to get out of bed some days, as long as you're trying.
I had PTSD. I got diagnosed with that when I was 14, and that's when I was quite young. But obviously when Sarah was born, that was a big red flag, and I can remember like obviously my health visitor coming out, and that's when they wanted to bring a psychologist and all that back in, and I can remember saying like, no, I'm okay, because at the time I genuinely was. And then it wasn't until like Sarah was a wee bit older and I started finding it really hard. When I say older, I say like maybe 7-8 months, and I started drinking all the time, that I was like, fuck, this is not going well. At one point I was going through a half bottle of vodka a day. Sarah's first birthday, I don't remember it. Do not remember it. I've got pictures and like that. I did not celebrate the day much, and I regret that. But I got drunk and forgot the day, and I regret that big time. But at the same time, I just wasn't happy. Obviously, I looked after Sarah, made her smile, made her happy, played with her, but I wasn't. Not a lot of people know that, but I am sober in the sense that I don't drink. You don't realise how much a toll it takes on mums, especially if they've like nobody to talk to. Do you know what I mean? I thought I could be superwoman and do it all on my fucking own, and I couldn't.
After probably a month or 2 months, I remember feeling quite down and quite depressed and quite like not being able to wake up and be like full of life and saying, right, I want to get up today and go and do this, walk you to nursery and take Liam in his pram and stuff. I did it, but I was just going through the motions. Went to the doctor, and the doctor said I probably had a bit of post-natal depression, so which I don't think I really told anybody. I don't think like Gran or Papa or people like that, they wouldn't have understood. Again, it was a thing then where people didn't really talk about postnatal depression as such. It was just like baby blues, they used to call it, and you'll get over it in a couple of weeks. Everybody feels like that and that kind of thing. But I didn't get over it in a couple of weeks.
I did believe that if you were able to carry and, birth a child, that meant not that you were immune, but that miscarriage just wasn't something that happened. Well, I've carried a baby, so obviously my body can do that. I'm never going to miscarry. And that was my belief up until November when it happened. And at the time I was like, well, I don't feel pregnant. I don't think I'm pregnant. Like, surely I would have known this, and went in and it was confirmed by the doctor. But at that point I had the wee one on my knee. She'd come with me because I just thought I was going in, quick check over, told it was just being a woman, gonna go get my flu jag. So I didn't really process it. I was just like, all right, cool. Now we've got to get our flu jags. Then we've got to go get the shopping. Then I need to go home. I've got emails to send, and I've got costumes getting picked up. And I didn't really deal with it. I just felt numb. I didn't feel like it was real. I was like, this can't be happening to us. Like, we've had enough hell going on this year. Like, this can't be real. And I almost kind of lived in denial for maybe a good 2 weeks. It was all just a bit surreal. And then it just hit me when I was standing. We'd gone to Ashton Lane to do a winter festival, and someone handed me their baby to take a picture with, us dressed as Queen Elsa. And I stood there holding this baby and was like, this newborn child, and I'm like, shit, that's happened. Like, this could have been what I had, and it's not happening now. And it just all kind of hit me at once. But obviously, you're working, you need to shake it off, put your feelings to the side. And I went home, and I cried quite a bit after that. When we lost that baby, we realised that it was the one thing we really wanted. So we were completely shocked to find out that we'd fallen pregnant again so quickly. And I knew this time, I could feel it. And then next day was Mother's Day, and it was all sneak out the house because Amelia and Scott were still sleeping, and I knew we had plans for later on the day, so I was like, not go snooping around, just go get ready and leave, go to work. I was going to do a birthday party, and it was up in Edinburgh, and went to the bathroom, and I knew it was happening. My heart sunk. I didn't know what to do. There I am in a place, there's a mum in the next cubicle trying to get her little one to pee without peeing all over the toilet cubicle, and I'm there knowing that I'm losing a second child, trying to sob quietly. That frantic kind of feeling of, no, this can't be happening again, this can't be happening again, it's happened to me once, that's it doesn't happen a second time, like it can't. And I just kind of shook it off and went, I laughed at the irony of having a miscarriage on Mother's Day, because who does that happen to? And I said nothing to the boy I was doing the party with. I just told him to make sure he, the Spider-Man eyes were on right, and we went in and we presented a birthday party.
I fell pregnant, and I think I was probably about 6 weeks into that pregnancy when I lost the baby. And I delivered him myself, believe it or not, in the toilet. I got a shouted Tom downstairs to go and get some sort of container to catch what I didn't know was going to come out, but it was actually a baby that came out. Went to hospital and I had to have a D&C, so for cleaning you out and all that. And then went back home, waited a wee while, tried again, and I got pregnant again. And I went to 26 weeks, and I was taken into hospital because I was bleeding quite a bit. I was lying in bed one night and my waters broke, so they took me down to the delivery suites and just left me for quite a few hours until the baby started to come. At 26 weeks, it was obviously far too early. And I was just kind of left there all night to deliver the baby by myself. And at this point, they hadn't phoned Tom, and I thought they would have. By the time Tom arrived, my little girl, she'd died by then.
When I had Liam, it was quite difficult. It was quite hard to push and to come out. And when he did come out, then I was all torn. So then I had there was just lots of bleeding. But it was the franticness of the midwife that was just making me worse. And she kept saying things like, right, it'll no be long, and right, come on, you can. So there was no comfort in it. It was just very direct and clinical. And then it wasn't the same even when she handed me Liam, she was like, right, just breastfeed him, now. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And she was like, well, you just put him to your breast, just breastfeed him. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. But meanwhile, there was just blood coming out of me, and she's like, well, I need to attend to this. And I can't remember the exact words, but it was just really horrible. And then Liam got taken away to get cleaned and stuff, and they were going to do stitches and whatever, so they put my legs up in stirrups. And when they did that, she left the room door wide open, the actual room, the door to the room, and left that wide open, went over to the cupboards, started opening and shutting all the cupboards to look for all the stuff that she needed while the door was open, while my legs were in stirrups. Then other doctors just wandered in while all this was happening. It seemed like an age before she did anything. And then she did the stitching and whatever, and then made me go in the bath. Then I came out the bath and I thought I was going to faint because I just had lost so much blood. And then put me into the bed, and they must have fed Liam because I wasn't able to feed him or something that night, but they must have given him something. And then I remember being woken up in the middle of the night, and the midwife saying to me, we'll need to take you to the toilet because the bed was just covered in blood. So I had to be taken to the toilet, I had to be re-stitched, I had to the bed to be changed and all that stuff. They had to put me in the shower and everything. It was just a horrible experience. And it made you then not feel like this was a happy time. It was much more of a stressful time. And I think if that had been my first experience, then I don't know that I would have had another.
To be fair, I was quite lucky. I didn't have any problems breastfeeding. I how you hear how some babies don't gain weight or they don't latch properly and the feeding doesn't work. Well, I was quite lucky with Sarah, do you know what I mean? She latched first time, fed away, gained weight, superb. But it got to the point where I felt quite lonely. Does that make sense? Because obviously my mum breastfed me, but only for so long, and then she stopped. And no one else, in Nick's family or my family, had breastfed. So I was like, oh, well, what the fuck do I do? And my health visitor said, well, go to a breastfeeding support group. So I went up to the one in Wishy Health Centre, and walked in, sat down, and I was by far the youngest person there. And nobody spoke to me, do you know what I mean? And I think that's what really put me off, do you know what I mean? Like, all these women were much older, you could tell they'd been there before, they were already quite cliquey, and they just did not speak to me. And I was like, right, okay, well, I'm not going back, and that was it.
One of the things that really stuck with me was people said, oh, breastfeeding is easy once you get the hang of it and it doesn't hurt. And that's a lie. It definitely hurts. And everyone I've spoken to since has said, oh no, it definitely hurts. It just, there's a type of hurt that shouldn't happen, and that means that you're doing it wrong. But all of this stuff you're told all the time, if breastfeeding hurts, then you're doing it wrong. And it's just this blame thing on mums. That means that you were doing it wrong, you were doing something wrong. And actually it was never like that for me. It was just sore. It was just sore on my first and my second and my third. And then the pain went away after a few weeks, and it was uncomfortable for a little while, and then it got easy. But when I was first learning how to be a mom and first learning how to breastfeed, it was really, really sore, and I felt like I was doing something wrong the whole time, even though the breastfeeding support woman said, no, everything looks fine, the latch is fine, everything looks good. And then I was always questioning, but what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Is it because she doesn't want me? Is it something to do with me? I'm not the best mom I need to be for her and everything. And that's really hard. And there's a massive thing about, blame the parents and then blame the mom because she's not doing it right, or this isn't happening the way it's supposed to happen.
I really want mums to understand that it's okay to feel vulnerable and it's okay to speak about it, because actually what we do as a society is expect women to instantly bounce back and be all empowered and be these supercharged warriors, but actually we are that, but we can also sometimes expose vulnerability, and it doesn't need a pill necessarily. What it needs is perhaps just someone to listen to it and to help them piece together the jigsaw again, because it's a rebirth. It's not just the birth of a baby. Each time a woman gives birth, it's another rebirth for her. I really believe that. I firmly see my role as a GP is that whenever a mum comes into me, especially when they're coming in for that 6-week postnatal check, is that, we're checking the baby over to make sure the baby is anatomically and physiologically okay, but my priority always is, Mum, how are you? And, often you kind of find that actually within those 6 weeks, it's the first time that somebody's asked, Mum, how are you? And that's the thing that I craved the most, is I wish somebody had asked me regularly how I was, because I couldn't remember who I was. Suddenly I was just somebody's mum and everyone wanted attention on the baby. And of course, the baby becomes the centre, but the mum is just as important. And yeah, I just think that we need to really move this conversation forward of, seeing mum for the first time as a mum, and almost holding her for the first time as a mum, as a new person who's just been born.